Well, Dion is also a little bit realignment proof too, because if in the, let's just say the Super League happens in a decade. If Dion, I don't think he's going to be there for a decade. Personally, I don't either. I don't. Yeah. I don't know if Dion's in well,
that's another reason to enjoy it while you have it, because you don't know how long this thing's going to last.
But he is negative news proof when it comes to that, because, let's say it is 5 years, and in 5 years the deck reshuffles and Dion's hired by somebody else. Man, you had a great last 5 years of being whatever, and Colorado might make it through the hoop. We don't know. Who all the teams would be. We have an idea of who most of them would be in that 32-team league, but I don't think they'd be.
That is a fun exercise to do. I did that back when the UCLA USC stuff did. Is like the hard parts. What would that number be? I mean, and this is total like fantasy booking or whatever. But that's like, what would the number be and who would get left out? Because you could do 32 by just adding two conferences together, but then you have the ACC schools and you have, whoever else you'd want to throw in there. So that's where you'd need to know what the firm hard number would be to know how many you'd have to eliminate. I would imagine they're playing all teams that are on your level or just below it or even above it. And that's going to be more of the NFL, you go, 9-8 or 10-7 nowadays in the 17-game schedule, or 12-5 or whatever, and 17-0 is not, they'd be nice, but not everybody's like, hey, we have to have that. So I think you'd realize, like, okay, we lost 4 games, we only used to lose 2, but we also don't play Indiana and Iowa State and I know those are not together, but just bear with me. We don't play we don't play Kansas and Iowa State anymore. We now have replaced them with Auburn and Florida, so
you get to 32 now.
There's
some prime. Excuse me. You're looking at some heavy duty, like Wagyu steak type stuff that's going to be cut out.
Oh no, I know. I mean, you'd have to trim some fat, and you would have. I mean, that's the appeal, though, if you think about it. Like, let's take everybody's personal feelings out of that. You could
there's
cut.
No Oregon. There's no Washington.
There's no Oregon or Washington, which you would think that they would have to be involved to some extent. So. Yeah,
Is it easier to name the 32 dogs, or would it be easier harder to name those? Might as well be.
Yeah.
Auburn?
Yep.
Arkansas?
I would put LSU in first.
I have LSU.
Oh, yeah, LSU, A&M.
Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas. Okay.
I think A&M's probably there.
All right, there's 7 from the SEC.
Tennessee,
8. Florida's 9. All right, I'm going to put the other ones over here. South Carolina, Vanderbilt.
Kentucky.
Mizzou.
Arkansas. Mississippi schools.
Mississippi and Mississippi State. And again, we're not saying
somebody out.
8, 9.
That's 1, 2, 3,
13,
4,
16,
5, 6,
that's
7,
it.
8, 9.
Yeah.
Okay, now, all right. Ohio State. Michigan. Penn State.
Michigan State. Nebraska. Wisconsin.
It's like that's even Wisconsin.
I think they would be in
Iowa.
See, Iowa's one of the ones I would have a debate on.
They have a lot of schools you could kind of cut the fat here. I mean,
all right, Iowa, Minnesota,
Purdue.
And again, some of these teams are beating up on a couple we mentioned.
Yeah.
Purdue.
But it's not about that, right?
No,
it's about brand recognizability.
Rutgers.
Think of this as the T-shirt league. Like, this is where
Indiana. Illinois.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
Minnesota.
13, 14, 15.
You got them already.
Got 15 right now from the SEC and Big Ten. Just throwing them out.
Oh, there. USC and UCLA.
UCLA. That's 17.
We're missing somebody, though. Okay, just check them off right here. Purdue.
Yep.
Indiana.
Yep.
Maryland.
Yep.
Northwestern.
Okay.
I think that was what you were missing
All right.
there. Michigan.
Yep.
Illinois.
Yep.
Iowa.
Okay.
Rutgers. Michigan State.
Yep.
Penn State.
Yep.
Wisconsin.
Yep.
Nebraska.
Yep.
Ohio State.
Yep.
Minnesota. Those are the current basketball standings. That's what I used to rifle those off.
Some of those teams are better than on the right column right now that are better. And we're just kind of having fun here.
Yeah.
But again,
someone going to lose their minds.
Booking.
But you got to think about this and think about, I'm going to keep repeating it, Burke Magnus from ESPN, the guy who is involved in these decisions, said it's about building great matchups. So great matchups on TV are not about man, Illinois was really good last year. I'd like to watch them and Oklahoma State go at it because they were both really good last year. No, it's about if you walked into the T-shirt store, what are the highest paying T-shirts, right?
And this is also football only.
Yeah, football only.
This is okay. Now, let's go. Are you saying nobody from the Big 12 without Texas and OU?
I don't think so, man.
I think that all 12 of those teams would be in the debate. Like, it would be like vying for the last of the last spots, right?
That is where it depends entirely on how I began this conversation. What's the number?
Yeah.
Is it 48 or is it 64 or is it 32?
Washington and Oregon included?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll include them.
Yeah. Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame.
Miami?
North Carolina?
Miami before. Well, I mean, you're talking about brands. You're talking about Miami before North Carolina.
I think as far as football brands go, North Carolina's borderline to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, this goes into like the money and all that kind of stuff. But I don't consider them amongst those blue. If we're doing a pure bluest of blue 32 team league, I don't think North Carolina's in that bad boy. But they are if like we have 31 teams and you need a 30. You know what I mean? Like, so that's where I think that whatever number you would be trying to go for, that's where that would be.
All right, from the ones we've mentioned, no one else from the Pac-12. We mentioned Oregon and Washington, USC and UCLA. No. We are okay. What other conference are we missing?
Well, I mean the rest of the Pac-12.
All right, right now we said 32 as just a number. We're at 23.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So then you get the debate of who from the Big 12 can make that argument, who among the UNC's can Virginia's, Virginia Tech's,
Iowa,
Louisville's, Iowa, the Four Corner schools, Stanford.
Someone at Virginia Tech, again.
Yeah. Yep. That's why it's fun to think about because if you're doing, that's why the number would matter because then 48 is like, why even do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there'd be like 20-something teams.
60. How many?
There's like 68
or so.
Like
right, you're trimming 20 teams.
With Notre Dame.
You're trimming 20 teams, and you would really, if you're trying to do elite, and I don't mean the word the way it's just casually thrown around for like pretty good nowadays, but like elite programs, all time, currently, what have you, like all the different measurements you'd want to use. Yeah, I mean, there's not 32 of those, so that's why it'd be fast. Like that's why you start talking about consolidation. All that is like, would the SEC just boot out Vandy and boot out? I mean, Kentucky football, I guess, even though they've been pretty good of late, but they certainly don't measure up to this category that we're talking about right here. Would it be a 24-team league? Well, then, hey, problem solved because you'd only need one more school. So that's why that would matter a lot. But you mean to tell me that 24 teams with those I mean, you could draw a line between any of those columns, and that's an incredible game that's probably getting at least 3 to 4 million viewers based on those fan base. And that's where the idea is that those games right there, none of those are just only going to get you 750,000. They're going to get you at least a couple million, no matter what you draw. It's Auburn, Michigan State, Georgia, Miami. I mean, I'm just randomly doing this. Oklahoma, Oregon. I mean, yeah, there'd be some fun games that we only see in bowls or in the playoff right now. But yeah, it's all fantasy booking. Again, it's the idea of where it might be heading. But the big questions on how would they consolidate? To what extent? How would that even work? Those are major questions that would remain no matter if we were to hit right.
I just can't imagine. I know that's possibly, and Patrick mentioned it, and I know it's out there. There's a lot of dudes, man.
Oh, I know.
I mean, you're talking about, we rattled off, and it took a while to get to 23, and there's like 2 or 3 of those that you're still not so sure about. And then you're talking about, okay, are we going to do this, or is this a TV market thing?
Well, that's the thing is there's no Illinois in there. So Notre Dame, I guess, would carry Chicago if you want to play that game.
Yeah,
but I mean, there's a bunch of states, just total states that are left out of this.
Like you think Ole Miss and Mississippi State are not going to play at the highest level?
I think they would be.
I think they would be. But like again, we put them in the right column because you had to get to But that's where.
But even adding the ones in the right column, we're still barely to 32.
But that's where again it becomes interesting because then that's when the lobbying starts because. The 23 that we mentioned, and maybe 24. So if say there's 24, and we're throw one of the team in there that we left out. So say there's 24. It's going to be the battle for that last 8, where schools like TCU or whatever have to make a compelling case for
their. With the amount of money that's being invested in Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Baylor, in schools like that that we didn't have on the left-hand column, it's like, who's going to be the one that wants to put a bullet in the head of these 40 other schools?
Well, I mean,
I don't think they're putting a bullet in there. I mean, I don't think they'd go about it that way. They're not looking at it as they're harming these others. They're looking at it, they're doing what's best for their universities.
I get it. I get it.
So they're not really like, well, I guess I'll be the one to tell them. It's not that. It's like, well, networks will have to tell them, sorry, but we're going to go play Tennessee, Georgia, Oklahoma, Michigan State, Ohio State in this all-star league. And that's why people have been fascinated with this idea for going on a number of years now. The Super League is no new idea by any means, but it's debatable on how realistic it's possibly becoming when you start to look at the OU Texas move and the USC UCLA move. And yes, those moves are made for right now and for TV eyeballs and for money, but there are very smart people that manage to make these moves that you can't tell me aren't also looking at 5, 10, 15, 25 years down the road what those moves are going to do. And so that's where you're like, okay, well, how could you make even more money? You're already in the SEC. You're already in the Big Ten. How could you possibly make more other than just, hey, another 10 years go by and you sign a new TV deal? Bigger matchups, more eyeballs, more, pageantry, more super tournament league, must watch, that kind of stuff. And you can't do that when you're peddling, your home game against Kansas.
Right, so from Jim Miller,